Good afternoon, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Platform Data Modeling with AI. It's been a little bit since you last saw us. How are we doing today, Trisha and Riley?
I didn't know we were calling it the Value First Nation, but I love it. I'm so happy to be a part of it, and I'm kind of missing the inbound energy right now and my HubSpot community. So I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, you, Riley.
Same on my end. Missed out on going to the inbound and got bits of everybody's hype and energy from it, and am excited to totally change up everything that we were talking about based off of the implications of inbound.
Riley knows what's up.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking today, Chris, that today would have been the perfect day for like the thing that you did a week before inbound. Today, I would have like tuned in for hours because I need that energy right now.
Like the data summit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be able to just binge the content now when it becomes available later today. I only got through chopping up the videos, trying to make them available for everybody.
Oh, fantastic.
So started that process today, got a couple blogs published. But yeah, it's right on time in terms of everybody's acutely aware of the data problems that we're all having now. Kind of panned out as expected, but meanwhile had no idea loop marketing was coming. But that made the data problem even more, even more of a hot topic. I think 200 updates I've dropped since we last met. There's new AI models, and it's only been like 6 weeks, I think, since we last had an episode. And as if HubSpot wasn't moving fast enough before, where we've moved on from the one and done implementations for a while. Like, you got to think of HubSpot as a product that you're always building, always developing. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today, why we're changing this process. It gets easier to do that when you start to unify things inside of the platform. But yeah, now that AI is here, it's just everybody's building up the same foundation. And HubSpot's tool set of Breeze and the way that it's layered in through everything now is benefiting a lot. The experience is getting better. But it's still hard to know exactly what you can and can't do until you try. So we're definitely going to move from, when we started this series, we did a lot of work inside of Claude, connected through MCP, was building properties and stuff in HubSpot from Claude. Ran into a fair amount of barriers and challenges related to that. So I'm in Breeze Assistant almost every day at this point, using it to build properties, to create records. So I'm gonna start to show some stuff. I would love to hear your take on kind of the last month, and how you are or are not keeping up.
Well, I can't wait for you to show us how you're building properties and what did you say the other records? Properties and records using Breeze, because I tried to do that very thing and I couldn't.
Okay. All right.
So I want to unlock the magic for me, please, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll go over a few use cases because this is why you need to rethink the approach, in my opinion. So first I'll share a kind of an already done example in the Profoundly portal. So Casey and I have been working hard on doing HubSpot updates, content, and the morning show. And we've been doing a lot of blogs, right? But we're trying to repurpose it effectively through Content Remix. So we're trying to create some project management around that. And we have a new projects object,
Look at y'all using the new project object.
right? And all of these records, 100% of these records were created by Breeze Assistant after saying, look at the blog, and I want to create project records for this. And in some spots, it's not consistent, but you can see Breeze Assistant was the creator of the thing. That's showing up in a lot more places. But to get to this point, I had to say, hey, maybe I can pull it up here. I said, hey, I need, because I've been doing a lot of this stuff with the listing object as an example, and it's got all the properties I want on the listing object. So the first thing I did was go look at the listings object properties, and I want you to create those properties on the project object. And it did it. And then I want you to create the same pipelines from that you see on listing. Like I want to see those on the project object, right? And this is a brand new object that is not fully accessible via, API and all the usual ways you might do this. So you can't do it via MCP. There's a lot of nooks and crannies that Breeze Assistant has access to, as you would imagine, that you won't have access to outside of HubSpot, right? So
I think that's something we obviously bumped up against using MCP with some of these other tools was some of these non-full objects it kind of was struggling with.
Yeah. And so, another thing I did was I've been putting off making tags like for all of the blogs, right? Figuring out a tag structure. So this was a process where at this point I had already created the CRM property HubSpot feature tag. And at Profoundly, we're trying to make it, we've already had feedback from people that say like, how do we know who can help us, with the new thing, right? People are loving the experience of Profoundly, but still find a way to tell us how hard it is to keep up, with HubSpot. And that feedback came in. So a part of the matching that we're trying to do with Profoundly relates to that. So that's where, in my mind, like we might have shown like a Canva map once upon a time. Like the data model is there, right? But it can be maintenance intensive to like kind of mishmash it together and not connect everything in an automated way. But especially when you're talking about new drop downs or new multi-select properties that you're trying to align across records or across objects, right? So we made this CRM property that let's see, HubSpot feature tagging system design. And it created this property on 6 different objects so that we can now get to the point where we can match things and associate things based on all of the tags, right? And there's like 50 tags, right? And it made that property without issue. I'd say the one thing you do have to watch out for is internal naming consistency, right? But otherwise, so much of the workload in this case, right? And I think, Trisha, if you could share like what you were seeing earlier, where there's still a lot of cases where it suggests it can or did do something, and it certainly did not.
I always go back to I did something wrong, and I wanted, what did I do wrong?
Can you share a little more about what
Yeah.
that experience was like? Like how did it happen?
The project was, I'm working with a new team, and their sales process looks very different than the old team. And so they want HubSpot to reflect the way that they're doing business today. And it's different life cycle stages, different lead status, different disqualification reasons, a new pipeline. So have a whole very well thought out list of requirements, like new properties, revisions to properties, pipeline instructions, whatever. Loaded that up, and I said, I'm redesigning this stuff. Please review the documentation, then suggest all the ways you can make these portal updates more efficient. Is there any work here you can do for me? Only offer help if it's something you can absolutely do. You'll only slow me down if you offer up something you can't do. And it returned, here's a concise assessment. With emphasis on actions I can absolutely assist with or set up for you. And number one was creating, modifying properties, pipelines, and stages. And then it went into detail on all the things that it could do for me. But when and then I ran into that friction that I often feel, where it's like, okay, I'm going to do that for you. And then you wait and nothing. Oh, that was like the first thing it says is like, I can get this for you in 5 business days.
It said that?
And it promised me, anyway, it was something like 5 business days. It kind of chunked it out into 4 different things, but the number one deliverable was going to take 5 days. And I was like, I really like it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it said, sure, check back in 30 minutes. And I came back in 30 minutes and there was nothing. And that was when it said, I can.
Yeah, I've experienced that as well. To me, anytime that it is not providing some kind of response or output within a few minutes, it is thinking it can do something that it cannot. Because every single time that I go back after like 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, a day, and be like, how's this going? It's like, I'm doing nothing. I stopped a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's where like an important piece we should hit on is the difference between agents and assistants. And Bree's assistant will often pose as an agent.
It thinks it can become an agent,
right?
But it can't. Like,
and it'll say things like "come and check back," and so when you use the tools enough, like you understand where it's going to break promises and just the way it presents itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it still takes 1 or 2 like of wishing that's going to be the case, right? And like seeing, like go checking, see if it did the thing, right? And then you call it out and it's like, yeah, you got me. Like if I don't do it right now in this, so that's what I've started doing. Like if it suggests that it's going to go away and do something, I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Like you need to do it in this next response, right? And that usually starts to solve that. But I think with your example, I'm definitely not comfortable in HubSpot yet, or with Breeze yet, to ask for like strategic advice. And a lot of what I'm doing here is as the start of this example, like, hey, can you see this? Like establishing what it can and can't see and trying to keep it like based on known information.
Yeah.
Starting there and then maybe asking for some gap fills, but still the strategic stuff I'm relying on Claude, especially if I'm like, just whatever's on your mind, like let me know. Like I'm definitely not there with Breeze yet. So I kind of over index on like the context engineering part of this process, like make sure we're looking at all the variables. And then if you have access to do that thing in HubSpot, like we'll know pretty quickly. But this is an example, like, because I honestly didn't know if I could see all the blog posts yet, like which parts of HubSpot, because this is like out of CRM, even though it still refers to it as CRM assets in some places for assistant and agents. So then it comes back with, yep, here's a list, and there's 78 total updates. So I'm like, all right, we're cooking with gas now. And then I say, I would like you to create them as project records in the CRM. And then this is super frustrating right now, and I don't know how to get past it. Like, so 78 blog articles. It only did 5 at a time, no matter which way, like I asked. And that's where I started getting into the pipeline. I love it. It's like a super bonus when it actually links to the things, but that's super inconsistent. But where it went, like if you can see on the left here, there's some duplication, right? That I still need to clean up, because I'm not keeping track of like numbering, counting if we get to 72. I'm just trying to get them created. And so it puts me in a mode of, okay, do more. Okay, do more. Like do another round. And every time it's doing 5 and 4 and 5. And then it gets to 1. And instead of like stopping and checking, I'm just like, do more. And that's when it started, like it's doing more, but it's duplicating like as it starts to do that. Right. So this is where I would look to like create some assistance with some knowledge vaults of like a process around doing the thing that I just discovered, like it could do. Right. So, and obviously this is a new process. There's nobody else counting on this process. So there's a playground like element of this, which I know is not available for everybody, but I think this is the kind of stuff that will help introduce, like if you, like so many companies I've run into do not have like standardized project management methods, but or it's like on a spreadsheet somewhere, or you know, just not a very accountable project management process. They do have CRM and they're using HubSpot. Like this is a spot where you can start to show what Breeze Assistant can do without messing around with anybody else's process, while trying to address a likely pain where people want, you know, more organization. And wouldn't it be nice if it was right next to the customer data and we could all see everything together? So I'd say you definitely have to pick your spots, but that's just an example that I was surprised, especially with the new object of projects, that I could go this far. And this was like I think it was like a Saturday or Sunday morning or something like that. Right. And this is where I got to the point where, okay, let it run and then do something else, come back, say, please continue. That's a balance I'm trying to figure out right now, of like not sitting and waiting for it to get done. Because if you're sitting and waiting, it very easily creeps up to the point where you hear a lot of people say, well, I could have I would do that faster. Like, why am I using Breeze at this point? It's just making it take longer, right? So I made new project records. I made properties. I made pipelines. Thoughts.
What objects were the properties on? It was like 7 different objects, right?
Yes, it was contact, company, deal, services, projects, and listings. because all
So
those
how come
things.
how come you can do it and I can't?
I have a better relationship with Raise, I guess.
So I shouldn't have. I guess what you're saying is that even though it told me it could do it, and then it told me it couldn't do it, never take yes or no for an answer. Just keep asking.
Well, ask to me it's ask small specific questions. Like
Yeah.
A way that this could have started is with him saying, hey, can you see the project's object?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're still testing and you're kind of unsure, you can kind of be like, okay, great, how many records are in there? And then, what's the average property value for something like this? And then just see if it gets it right. Something that you can reasonably like affirm, that's like a good test for, okay, it knows what's in there and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you know that, the tricky part for me is like, I bump up against things that it fails to do, and I log that away as like, oh, it can't do that. And then a week later it can, because they've updated something or because they've like made the improvement. So like, you kind of have to always stay in this perpetual, like it probably can, and then confirm that it can't. Like your hypothesis should be that it can, and you try and disprove that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody last week who she knew it could do the thing, and then she came back a week later and it couldn't do the thing, and then the next day she tried. Well, it was Casey, and she tried it again, and it could do the thing.
Yeah, I'm learning so much about prompt engineering and like how much that plays into it. I'm still by absolutely no means an expert or even proficient in it, but right now I'm just trying to talk to it in a way that can help me. I'm willing to accept that like it's going to be slower for me to do things for the interim, because I'm trying to use this new tool and figure out how can I leverage it, because there are times where I absolutely could just do the thing faster if I just went in to go do it. But Chris, what I'm also really curious about is when it made these new properties for you, did it provide property descriptions? How did it default make them? Does it view and edit access to everyone? Like, and did it tell you how it was making them? Did it tell you like, I've made all these properties and everyone can view and edit them, and I named them this, and here's the description?
It will definitely ask sometimes, like, all right, do you want a summary of what I'm about to do, or you just want me to do it?
Yeah.
And most of the time I ask for the summary, and it'll tell me like, so kind of like this, like, here's the property list. Or this was after. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So here's where it's based on your listing object schema and standard pipeline related operations. The following properties are typically relevant to the content or event pipeline. So there was more properties over on the listing object. And I said, like, I want some of those over here as it relates to these pipelines, because there's another listing, like, so pro profiles are also in the listing object, right? And they have a completely different stage and gate setup. And I'm not trying to support that. So there's definitely a buildup, trying to build the context within the chat at the same time to make sure we're going down the right path.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a constant awareness from my side of what's been said so far and how the responses have gone. But if we look at, let's see, the data model. Let's go. Let me go to edit data model. And I could very quickly see, and most of the time it'll link you to this page, like when it's done. But if we look at projects, and I can sort by recently created, custom. And so it's easy to access let's see. And this is one of those spots where let's see here. Close the tag. All right. That was the one. This is a spot where it's, even though it did it, it still says me.
Ah.
Right.
So it's
But if there's a
responsibility, I see.
Right. Also, like when I just let it do it, if I don't tell it which group to put it in, it makes them faster and easier. And then I just move them over into like a different group.
Okay.
Because that early on, I was like, put them in this group, like I want this group, right? And it kept coming up with reasons that I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. But every time you ask it to make that, it will always make this group, no matter which object. So it's a way to differentiate. But if you look at, so it definitely made this description.
Okay, well, answer key features, negative facing uphill first. Multi-select comprehensive list. I like that. I like that.
Yeah. In this property, in all of the ways, got done because of the unified context inside of HubSpot. Because literally, like I ended up saying, like to make the tagging easier, to make the list of tags easier. Because it was trying to look at the blog posts and figure out what the content was, and it just wasn't working. So I was like, just do it based on the navigation, like of HubSpot, right? And that got me much closer to a list that I wanted. I think it was like, I need these 8 plus the nav is what the request was. And so as an example, for those that might not be familiar with property creation, like to put this, it's not terribly difficult to go and add this to a different object now, because you can load options from property, and I can go find this on a different cell. It's already got the HubSpot feature tag. But if I were to select it here, all the same would load up. But now that I know I can do with Breeze, if there's ever a discrepancy, like, or I need to add an option to the list, I'm going to say, hey, Breeze, add this option to all of the properties, so that I don't have to go and add it 6 times. Any other questions on property creation, or are you trying on your side, Trisha, to get this to work?
Just did it again. And I tried to do it a little bit differently. So yeah, it's definitely connected to the portal. It returns information about the portal. I tried to cut it down. Like instead of saying here's the entire shebang of requirements, just do the 8 new properties. And it came back and it was like, nope, can't do that. And I said, do one of them. And it said, no, can't do that. Is there any chance, because I'm in a sandbox,
Yes.
Oh, for crying out loud. Are you kidding me? That's why?
I mean, that's the variable that I know is different from production. Like, I guarantee it's going to do things differently over there. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, it's not, I would imagine there's things involved in the sandbox that if Breeze overall has been trained on production environments, it's running into things it's not used to seeing or access it's used to having. Yeah, that would be my initial like go-to. And I would ask it, like, there's other people telling me this is possible right now. Is it because I'm in a sandbox that you can't do this?
Here we go.
That's where I start going. But what I'm showing here, so I've created a deal, and it's got some line items on it. And so if you follow along, I focus on like quote to cash and order post sales order management stuff. I like an object called the deliverable that represents the thing that needs to be managed, like the version of the line item that needs to be managed after deal activation. That's the stage that's how I name the stage closed one. And traditionally, line items are not fun to work with when trying to automate things based on them. And if I want to create a deliverable based on a number of line items at closed one, I've got to use a custom coded action in a workflow to do it. And this is what just happened this week. So I'm gonna mimic that process here. And while it works, I'm going to check out. Looks like you put Breeze's response in the chat, Trisha.
I did. And I have a new theory. It's because you're Chris. It's because you're Chris.
Breeze says, no, this limitation is not because you're in a sandbox. My inability to create properties or make schema changes is universal. So confident.
So confident.
It applies equally to both sandbox and production environments. If others are telling you I can perform these actions directly, they are mistaken or do not fully understand my true capabilities. Wow. I feel like this Breeze has been some trauma.
I feel like you've got multiple personality disorder with Breeze.
Like it hasn't gone well when he's tried to do things like this in that portal. Like
I'm going to go, I think my next thing that I will do, just to see if there's a difference across portals, is I'm going to go into the value first. I think I have access to the sandbox. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go in there and try the same thing and see what happens.
Yep. Please do. I'm going to refresh this page over here. So we've got an order that was generated. This is based on a workflow. And we've got a deliverable. Let's see here. And we've got a customer handoff agent that has been triggered. This deliverable is from the workflow situation. So if we look at it, and I get a notification here, the agent run is finished. Let's see if I can get the source. Nope, not that button. Properties. Source. Right, so workflow, deal activation handoff, right? Now, if we look at Breeze Studio, automation design, intent, and context. This automation design brief outlines a system for automatically creating deliverable records in HubSpot from deal line items once a deal is activated. It shows me some mapping. I'll lots of pretty stuff here. We got some association logic, association details. I haven't figured out why it does two different things right now, but we won't focus on that. And then it says automation attempt could not start. Specifically, there was no company name or deal context. Not completed. And go back here. All right.
I feel the same way.
I'm going to add a company and try again because I didn't follow process. Right? There was no, so I'm just going to clone this after I actually here. Clone. If you didn't know, you can clone objects and object records in HubSpot now. Ultimately, this is highlighting the primary problem we have right now is still a lot of black boxiness to the whole situation, which is going to prevent, adoption and scale in some spots. But when I see that it's working in some spots and not in others, all it is refining the context, doing some context engineering, spending time with it, understanding which words to say, which words not to say, similarly to how we work with other humans, right? When you use phrases that they don't understand or, they might not be happy about if you use that word, marketing, sales, and service come to mind as words that don't always do what you would like when trying to communicate with people. So there's a learning curve. That's the only way I'm seeing it. But let's see. I'm going to try this again because I have seen this work, and it was a very similar situation where I started with, "Hey, Breeze," from my phone, actually. "Can you see line items on a deal?" It said yes. And I said, "Okay, can you go find the last deal and tell me what line items are on it?" And it found it and told me what the line items are. And then I said, "Can you create?" So this was in Breeze Assistant, right? I said, "Can you create a deliverable object, which is a custom object in this portal based on the line items that you see?" And he said, yes. And it happened. So from there, I said, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to use, first of all, I asked, are you familiar with the customer handoff agent? Except I was calling it customer account handoff agent and account handoff agent. And it was saying, no, I don't know which one you're talking about, man. I know about these ones like closing agent and customer agent and all the other ones. And it took me like 4 back and forths, like to try and figure out which word. And then I came in, I was like, oh, customer handoff. And I came in and I used the instructions. I said, just to confirm, like, again, we're always confirming current state understanding. So definitely, I'll reiterate, trying to keep it as black and white as possible inside of HubSpot. Like, very different than how I handle things in Claude. But I gave it the which we can check out this while it's running. We go to configure. Right. I gave it these instructions. I said, hey, I want to do this deliverable process at the end of this. Can you give me some extra instructions that will do what you just did, that will add that process to this agent? Right. And I just copy pasted. Made sure it had access to the tools. The one thing I had to add was create association between records. And this is where there's nothing here that says create record. So I'm not sure if that's like built in, which I think it is, because it's this part of this access with CRM records. But that's how I got there, like continually building up context with, like collaborating with Breeze to get to that endpoint of like, okay, now let me try and go big, right? And add it to this agent. And if you look at the inbox again, it's running. Of course, this is live. So we'll now fetch line items for each activated close one deal and then execute creation and association of deliverables according to this mapping. It wants to work. And there it says it's finished. Manual verification required. Accomplished steps. I think there's so much to be learned here. Like with agents, the difference between agents and assistants, agents are showing like all the work, right?
Mm.
So I think similarly to where if we were watching somebody do the process that was having a problem getting a thing done, we could look in here and get to troubleshooting like much more effectively than we can with Breeze Assistant, right? And because this is obviously not great in terms of the inconsistency with how it's executing the instructions. So again, we find ourselves in one of the most frustrating spots where it's nice when it works the first time, but then when you try to repeat the process and it doesn't work, and all you did was copy and paste to get here, right? It's not fun. But it doesn't mean it can't do it. It just means, like I think at Inbound, Dylan Selberg, director of AI product or something like that. Like he said, it takes 3 minutes to spin up an agent, 3 weeks to get it working well.
Yeah,
right?
I would agree with that.
Because in a lot of these cases, like we're trying to do the thing that we've always thought about doing, and it hasn't worked very well. And we're like, let's see if that works. So obviously we need to create process. There's no like, I think the process of like developing the capability doesn't change very much. It's just which capabilities are you developing, right? And if this example, which I would show the ones that worked, but they have customer information on there, so I'm not going to. Also, I'll reiterate, this is in beta, and they're constantly adding and subtracting from Breeze Studio right now in spots. So that's a concern on my mind, because it's definitely not working right now.
I just got a new message because I've been picking at it. If you observe Breeze making live changes, that portal or demo environment likely has elevated non-standard permissions enabled by HubSpot.
There you go.
HubSpot
I mean, we see like beta access get in the way, like you haven't clicked the beta button yet. Like for example, that project stuff would not have worked. Like if I wasn't in the project beta and I hadn't activated the object library object. So this is disappointing for sure, just being transparent. But when it works, it handles a specific pain that requires usually some development assistance, some developer assistance, and like even workflows like this. What it's doing here, like to get to this deliverable, is workflow based and custom coded action based.
Mm-hmm.
And if the agent can do that for me consistently, then I don't need to do that part. I don't need to pay for Data Hub, right? Which is a huge deal. There's lots of reasons. This is where there's lots of reasons to, like, if you're in a place where it's like, oh, I just need custom coded actions, like those are the places where, okay, I got to upgrade. If you just have one use case, like there's lots of reasons to invest in Data Hub, and I think everybody should do it. There's so much available as far as data quality management and all this hands-off administration that we talk about. But when it's just the one thing, it just takes clicking on a couple of these Breeze options to start understanding, like, I really don't want to talk to sales today, or I don't want to worry. I don't want the burden of adding a new hub that I'm going to worry about, whether I'm getting the most out of HubSpot that I'm paying for, right? That weighs on a lot of people. And if I can, like, that shifts the cost over to the agent, of course, when it starts costing credits. So it doesn't all of a sudden become free. It's free right now, but it's a non-development process now, right?
Yeah, I love that, and I'm all for it. And I know you'll bring us home, but I have to leave. So thank you very much, Chris, and thank you very much, Riley, and wish me luck that HubSpot blesses my portal with the same superpowers as yours in the near future.
Well, we'll see you next week because we'll be back. And I thank you both so much for joining me again. We'll see you guys next time.
Yep. Thank you.